but it's not good enough. I think that's a healthy place to be, and I think that's how we can grow.
And back to my question from before the game, like where did you think the guys' heads were going into this? Did you feel comfortable where they were mentally heading into this with all of the stuff that we mentioned before the game?
I think so. I mean, I honestly don't try to get into their minds because I think they're NBA players and they have distractions every game. They have things going on in their lives all the time. So I try not to get too into like what are they thinking in this game. I think again, it's never the intentions with us. Like we play with the right intentions. It's the execution. And as we continue to become a better team, teams are going to continue to guard us differently, have to do different things to try and knock us off our game, and we have to be aware of what those things are, and we got to be ready to execute against them.
Looking back at how this team's evolved over the last several years, having that kind of crazy 48-hour stretch of the overtime game against Minnie, then the blowout against Milwaukee, how do you feel like this team has been good at just kind of putting things behind them and bouncing back and not going into slides?
Yeah, I mean, it never felt like we were too high after the Minnesota game, and it never felt like we were too low after the Milwaukee game. I think those are the things that we have to create to get to the next day, and those are the things we got to, ask and say and do. Like tonight, when you said, like, what, do we have to prove anything? Like, we never cross our mind, So I think our guys just have a healthy mindset of where are we at? Are we playing okay? Are we getting better? They're a smart team. They're a high character. They're a high IQ team. So we always know when we're playing good basketball. We know when we're distracted. We know when we're connected. And I think that's the space you got to live in.
You've had a bunch of games like this where first quarter early on is kind of tight and you just gradually open up a lead. How is the team kind of figuring out a team, or how are you guys figuring out a team early in games and actually making it work?
I think it just kind of comes to our defensive identity. I think giving up a 31-point first quarter allows a team to hang around. And then 25-point quarters are really hard. Like we talk about, you get a 49% chance if you get one, 68 if you get two. Like 27s are decent. I look at the 27, 28, 27, and that's the difference is like a foul. One rebound that gets you an and one poor rim read that gets you a transition basket at the end. So we're not talking entire quarters. We're talking 5 possessions a quarter that we have to get better at. And I think when we live in that space of like, okay, there's 5 possessions we've got to clean up this quarter, that's the difference between, the level that we want to get to and the level we're at.
You've been emphasizing everything Jason and Jaylen are doing besides scoring this year, things people aren't noticing, but they have the last 2 weeks both been turning up their scoring at the same time. What have you seen during this stretch?
Relatively good efficiency. You got 32 points on 15 shots, both of them relatively efficient tonight. So I think they're doing a good job of getting to their spots, of understanding the coverage and picking and choosing when to attack. So I didn't look at the box score in the Minnesota game, but I do like with the intention that they're playing with.
Joe, Jason's ejection, it's his second one this season. I'm not going to ask you if you're concerned about that, but, he has a propensity to get some technical fouls. Is there something that he can do or something you can say to kind of and bring that back? No. Mm-mm. What was your opinion on the foul call?
I mean, the space that I've been in this last week when it comes to stuff like that, I try not to have an opinion.
Should we talk about your favorite movie scene again?
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, sometimes you like to see the passion from players. Sometimes it's distracting them from what they should be doing. How do you feel with Jason talking to refs?
Again, you look at it goes back to that point of everything we have to do has to lead to winning, right? And so I think in the NBA you have that space of having to defend yourself, and for me, having to defend my guys. And there's a time and a place for that. There's a time and a place for everything. And, you just got to pick and choose your spots.
And are you okay with him choosing that time and that place?
Yeah. I trust his judgment.
Joe, earlier this year, you talked about Sam Hauser's defense. There are a few times tonight where Rockets went at him.
Good. We get a lot of reps. It's good.
There was one position where Sam and some of the other assistants got up and started, yelling stuff at him, telling him to stay home, and he did a good job. I think they were 0 of 3 when they isolated him. Mm-hmm. What have you seen from him on the defensive end this year, and how important is that, him locking in with already having that 3 points?
I'm seeing the same thing I saw last year. I'm seeing the same thing I saw when I first coached him in Summer League. People a white shooter. Most people think he can't play defense. So, yeah, I said it. And he's been able to play defense since I coached him in summer league. And, he does a really good job of taking tendencies, does a really good job of understanding who he's guarding. He does a really good job of not giving up angles, and he's been that way since day one. So I've always said he could guard. I've always knew he could be a good defender, and the more people attack him, the more reps we get for the playoffs. So I hope they continue to do it.
People called it Hauser Island last year, so you're accepting the Hauser Island?
Yeah, I never bought into that. I was fine when it was more about everyone having to shake the stereotype that he couldn't guard, which I already knew.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Final question, back to the room here.
I know you guys were up during halftime. I wanted to ask, how do you keep your team in the game?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think sometimes you have to find ways to challenge your guys, and you have to find ways to you have to have a healthy balance of challenging and at the same time understanding how they're playing. And so I think at halftime, it goes back to what we talked about after the game. If we're just going to sit back and be happy after every win, then that's an unhealthy relationship with success, and it's going to come back to bite us in the ass. And if we have the healthiest relationship to have with success is to understand that you can still get better. And so I think that's the space that we have to live in.
Thank you.
Thanks.